Have you ever stopped to think about the invisible code that's, well, kind of running your life? You know, the stuff that decides what you see online, who gets a job, or even who gets a visa? Yeah, we're taught to think of algorithms as these pure, objective, mathematical things. But what if that's not the whole story? What if it's a myth? Let's get into it.
So here's the deal. On one side, you've got this incredible promise, right? That these algorithms are going to be objective, super efficient, and totally fair. A better version of human decision-making. But then there's the reality. And the reality is that these systems can be deeply biased, totally opaque, we have no idea how they work, and they hold a staggering amount of power over all of our lives.
Okay, so where's the disconnect? How do we get from that shiny promise to this messy reality? Well, it all starts with the code itself. And here's the kicker. From a pure computer science standpoint, the very idea of a truly neutral algorithm, it's not just hard to pull off, it's actually a mathematical impossibility.
And that brings us to this absolutely killer quote from mathematician Cathy O'Neill, which is pretty much the heart of this whole explainer. She says, algorithms are opinions embedded in mathematics. Just let that sink in for a second. They aren't just these abstract formulas floating around in a vacuum. Nope. They are human opinions, our judgments, our values, all translated into the language of code. And they carry all our baggage and biases right along with them.
Right, so if bias is baked right in from the start, how does it actually get in there? You know, it's not some random ghost in the machine. It's the result of a series of very human, very deliberate choices made way before that algorithm ever sees the light of day.
So how does it work? Well, first, you start with historical data. And guess what? That data is a perfect mirror of our society's past, biases and all. Then the engineers have to make choices, value-based choices, about what they think is important. From there, they define what success looks like for the algorithm. This is called a loss function, and if that goal is flawed, everything that follows will be too. And boom, what do you get at the end? A biased algorithm that basically just launders our human prejudices and presents them back to us in the clean, sterile language of tech.
And look, this isn't just some abstract academic problem. These opinions, the ones embedded in the code, they have very real and often really damaging consequences out in the world. Let's run through a few examples so you can see what I mean.
Okay, let's talk hiring. Imagine an algorithm designed to find the best job candidates. It's trained on decades of a company's hiring data. Now, if that company has historically promoted men into leadership, what does the algorithm learn? It learns that being a man is a key marker for success. And just like that, it starts systematically filtering out perfectly qualified women.
Or what about predictive policing? This stuff is wild. These tools often tell police to patrol minority neighborhoods more heavily because historical data shows more arrests happen there. But that data doesn't necessarily mean more crime happens there. It often just reflects a history of over-policing. So the algorithm creates this nasty feedback loop. It justifies more policing, which leads to more arrests, which generates more data to justify, you guessed it, more policing. And it's all passed off as data-driven efficiency.
And we see this stuff on a global scale too. Automated systems for handling visa applications can get trained on past immigration data. Well, if that data reflects old geopolitical biases or patterns of discrimination, the new system just bakes them right in. It can make it way harder for people from certain countries to get approved for reasons that have nothing to do with them as individuals.
And then, of course, there's the big one, social media. The recommendation engines on these platforms are usually designed to do one thing and one thing only: maximize engagement. Keep your eyeballs on the screen. And you know what they learn really, really fast? That outrage, controversy, and division get the most clicks, comments, and shares. This is a perfect example of something called reward hacking. The AI does its job perfectly, but the result is totally destructive to the way we talk to each other as a society.
So, here's the thing. This is about way more than just bad code. It's about power. The biases we're seeing in these systems, they are tangled up in much, much bigger economic and geopolitical power structures.
Which brings us to this really important concept, vendor sovereignty. Sounds complicated, but it's pretty simple. It's the unilateral power that a few giant tech companies have to change or even just switch off their services whenever they want, often with zero public oversight.
And we saw a super clear, kind of scary example of this when Russia invaded Ukraine. Apple and Google just disabled critical services like maps and payments inside Russia. All of a sudden, millions of people couldn't navigate their own cities or buy groceries. It's a huge wake-up call that governments can't really regulate tech they don't own, and it raises these massive questions about what national sovereignty even means anymore.
And there's yet another layer of power we have to talk about:
the hidden human labor that actually makes all this AI stuff possible. I mean, the enormous data sets that these algorithms need to learn from, they're often painstakingly labeled by hand, piece by piece, by a totally invisible workforce, a lot of whom are in the global south.
So what do you think these folks get paid? Well, according to a 2023 report from the International Labor Organization, a lot of them are making less than $2 an hour. I mean, come on. These platforms are paying wages that are nowhere near a livable wage, trapping people in this really precarious work cycle, and it's all to power the AI systems that are increasingly running our world.
Okay, so to bring this all home, let's just bust two final, really persistent myths about algorithms. Myths that kind of let all these problems just keep on happening.
All right, myth number 1. Algorithms eliminate human error. The reality? No way. They take our human biases and put them on steroids, amplifying them at a massive scale. They lock them into these socio-technical feedback loops where biased data creates biased results, which then creates even more biased data. And myth number 2, that we, the users, are still in control. The reality is that with these super complex black box models, like deep neural networks, the decision-making process is so tangled that sometimes even their own creators can't fully explain it. So true accountability? Pretty much impossible.
So, it all comes back to that central idea, doesn't it? If algorithms are just our opinions written in the language of math, then when we look at the systems we've built, we have to ask ourselves a pretty tough question. What do our algorithms, what do they, really say about us?
The research and ideas in this explainer are based on excerpts from the book Homo-Servus, The Collapse of Human Sovereignty in the Digital Era by Dr. Wahiba Malawi, Dr. Mubarakut Muhammad, and Dr. Halima Malawi. Thanks so much for tuning in.